The movie opens in a cage with baby raccoons. A terrifying entity known as the High Evolutionary enters the cage while they are all playing freely with one another. To Rocket, one of the raccoons in particular, he extends his hand. Peter has been drinking himself to unconsciousness while still grieving the death of the original Gamora, and Nebula had to take him to his room. As they try their telekinetic skills, Kraglin and Cosmo develop a little bit of a rivalry. Kraglin has been attempting to perfect the use of Yondu's arrow with his fin, but he hasn't yet mastered it. The entity known as Adam Warlock, who was created by the Sovereign High Priestess Aisha, comes racing into nowhere at full speed and collides with Rocket from further out in space. The Guardians launch into battle, but Adam attacks Rocket while tearing off Groot's head. He survives, though. After Adam has critically injured Rocket, Peter and Mantis work to aid him while Drax tries to beat up the Golden Man. Nebula uses one of her knives to impale Drax before Adam can kill him. When Peter tries to treat Rocket with a med pack, it does not function and almost kills him before Nebula orders them to remove it. Adam retreats, leaving nowhere in destruction. Rocket seems to experience a flashback of his time being used as a test subject by the High Evolutionary. He was given the number 89P13 and placed in a cage alongside 3 other animals used as test subjects: a walrus with wheels for legs, an otter with mechanical arms, and a rabbit with additional mechanical parts. They make friends with the anxious Rocket and help him to feel less alone. Aisha begs the man to stop torturing Adam as he attempts to punish him for failing to get the Rocket back since she thinks of Adam as her son. The High Evolutionary explains to his henchman Thiel that he is aware of the Guardians' whereabouts. At the Orgoscope, which serves as Orgocorp headquarters, the Guardians arrive. Peter and Mantis talk about how he hasn't been back to Earth since the Ravagers abducted him, and Peter says the only person he would know is his grandfather, but he doesn't sure whether he's still alive. They are getting ready to breach the shield. A little while later, Ravagers under the command of Stakar Ogord board the Guardians' ship. The other Gamora has joined them and has been speaking to Nebula secretly. Even though this version is unfamiliar with the other Guardians, Peter is shocked to meet Gamora. The Guardians are given spacesuits by Stakar, who also gives them instructions to stay away from Orgocentries while they attempt to access the company's data to learn more about Rocket. In another flashback, it is revealed how smart Rocket was and why High Evolutionary kept him near. Additionally, he had seen Counter-Earth grow as High Evolutionary was transferring his finished experiments there. He demonstrated a machine to Rocket where he attempted to speed up the evolution of some creatures, but he had not yet mastered it to the point where they were anything more than mindless monsters that he would destroy once they were viewed to be failures. Rocket appeared to have discovered the issue regarding the proteins in the organisms they were utilizing, much to the amazement of High Evolutionary. When the Guardians arrive at the Orgoscope, Peter tries to talk to Gamora, but she rejects him since she isn't the Gamora he used to know and love. Before being discovered by Orgocentries commanded by Master Karja, they hide their spacesuits someplace, but the Guardians make it seem like they are working there. Gamora and Nebula split off with Peter, while Drax and Mantis stick together. The former 3 confront Yura, an Argo employee, and coerce her into escorting them to the records. The Orgocentries pursue the Guardians as soon as they discover Rocket's file. They stored their spacesuits incorrectly, causing them to be pulled into space, although Drax and Mantis make an effort to fight off the guards. Karja fires at them, weakening Drax and Nebula in the process. In order to turn off the artificial gravity and get the Orgocentries off their tails so they can travel back to their ship, Peter convinces Yura to assist them. Yura then grants him access to their systems. Another flashback shows Rocket with his animal companions as they dream about being free. They create their names at this place. The otter chooses Lilla, the walrus chooses Teefs, the rabbit chooses Floor, and Rocket chooses his own name after spotting a rocket flying above Counter-Earth. The Guardians examine Rocket's paperwork and see the atrocities the High Evolutionary put him to. The passkey is not present in the file either, but it is stored in the device's memory within Thiel's skull. Gamora objects to the idea when Peter tries to leave to look for Thiel, but Nebula persuades her that Rocket is still a member of their family. Another flashback shows the High Evolutionary frantically dragging Rocket along to watch his further experiments after taking Rocket's advice on animal proteins and perfecting it to make his creatures more advanced. Rocket is likewise treated like a failed experiment full of errors by High Evolutionary, who also gives the order to burn the perfected beings. The Guardians arrive on Counter-Earth, which is populated by human-like animals and features various suburban neighborhoods similar to those Peter used to know. When they first arrive, Drax makes a poor first impression by tossing a ball at a child's head, and the locals start hurling trash at the Guardians until Groot grows enormous and scares them away. After Peter assists a Batwoman, she invites him and his friends into her home where they assist the Guardians in locating High Evolutionary Station in order to locate Quill. The family then let Peter to drive out with Nebula and Groot in their car. Guards from High Evolutionary lead Peter inside as soon as they get there. One final memory has Rocket stealing a tool that enabled him and his friends to escape their prisons by unlocking their own. High Evolutionary shot Lilla to death after they had a hug as punishment for the failed escape attempt. Rocket screamed furiously before scratching and disfiguring High Evolutionary's face. Rocket murdered 2 of his henchmen when they arrived, but they had already shot Teefs and Floor to death. Rocket fled on his own while mourning the deaths of his friends. War Pig, a High Evolutionary subordinate from Counter-Earth, flies to the Guardians' ship to attack Gamora and Rocket. As War Pig tries to pull Rocket inside, Adam comes upon her and rips off her head. Before High Evolutionary says he's going to destroy the Earth and start over, Peter confronts him about his behavior. The destruction of Counter-Earth and its inhabitants starts. When Adam tries to go back to Aisha, he is forced to watch as her ship is destroyed. Before jumping out of the window with Thiel, Peter and Groot engage in combat with some of High Evolutionary's henchmen. Groot then builds wings to support himself and Peter as he drowns Thiel and snatches his memories. The world keeps exploding all around them, but the remaining Guardians manage to return to their ship. Mantis, Drax, and Nebula get lost in the turmoil and get up aboard High Evolutionary's ship, but Peter and Groot manage to return to their ship with Rocket and Gamora. Although Mantis is aware that Drax makes mistakes that gets them in danger, Nebula holds him responsible for their situation and attempts to protect him. In an effort to save Rocket, Peter, Gamora, and Groot scramble to utilize the passkey. He finds himself in a white realm where Lilla, Teefs, and Floor are waiting for him, perhaps to welcome him to the afterlife. Rocket is all set to go with them until Lilla reminds him that he still has a role in life. Prior to Rocket eventually coming to and embracing his friends, they share a kiss. They then hear from Nebula, who along with Drax, Mantis, and others, discovered a large group of kidnapped children that High Evolutionary had been holding for experiments. They are ecstatic to learn Rocket is still alive after hearing his voice on the radio. High Evolutionary unfortunately catches them and informs the other Guardians. Peter gives them the direction to go save their friends and asks Kraglin for assistance. Due to the fact that he speaks the captured children's language, Drax is able to calm them down and make them laugh by playing silly, much as he used to do with his own daughter. He is placed in a chamber with 3 obelisks along with Mantis and Nebula. However, Mantis uses her abilities to ally the obelisks with them and aid in their rush into combat. As High Evolutionary's men start to strike, Kraglin and Cosmo assist in bringing Nowhere near to the ship. Kraglin gets a vision of Yondu telling him to use his heart to fly the arrow, and it succeeds when Kraglin takes out the High Evolutionary's drones and Cosmo uses her telekinetic abilities to take out a henchman who is approaching them. When the High Evolutionary's henchmen try to rebel, he uses his powers to vaporize everyone in the group. When the Guardians get back together, Adam and Blurp joins them. They confront the army of High Evolutionary together and destroy them completely. The Guardians rescue the kidnapped children and transport them to safety by moving the ship closer to Nowhere with the help of Cosmo's magic. Rocket discovers a litter of baby raccoons and other animals before departing, and he starts to work to let them free. Before Rocket reminds him of who he truly is, High Evolutionary finds him and comes close to killing him while declaring that he is nothing more than a failed experiment. As soon as the other Guardians arrive, they give High Evolutionary a well-deserving beating before it tears off his face and reveals the terrible deformity Rocket gave him. Rocket makes the decision not to murder High Evolutionary, but they leave him to perish as his ship begins to explode. Rocket frees the other animals, but before Peter can go to Nowhere, Cosmo's powers start give out. Adam rescues him by flying him into Nowhere when he almost freezes to death in space. The Guardians gather for one final time on Nowhere. Peter intends to finally visit Earth, while Gamora will continue her job with the Ravagers. Mantis claims that in order to figure out what she wants to accomplish for herself, she too wants to go out on her own. Drax offers to accompany her, but Mantis insists she must travel alone. Nebula states that Drax is better qualified to care for the kids because he was always intended to be a father, and she will be in charge of nowhere. Rocket inherits Peter's leadership role in order for him to take charge of the incoming Guardians team. When he comes back to Earth, he meets up with his grandfather Jason once more. After the Guardians split off, Peter gives Rocket his Zune, and Rocket uses it to play Dog Days Are Over so that everyone in Nowhere can hear it and start dancing. Mid-credits scene, Rocket and Groot are now in charge of their new team, which also consists of Kraglin, Cosmo, Adam, Blurp, and Phyla, one of the orphaned kids. Rocket guides them on their next journey by playing Come and Get Your Love when a horde of baddies approach them. After credits scene, Peter and Jason talk about their stepson with his second wife over breakfast. The final text states that the legendary Star-Lord will return.